guys, a very good evening once again, Twitch and YouTube fans, and welcome back to another stream here of Microsoft Flight Simulator, the new version that everyone's all excited about, and I'm pretty excited about it too. So I'm going to do something a little different than I did last time. I did one stream already, just gave you my very first impressions of it. I've played with it a little bit more since then, had a little bit of fun with it, and I'm starting to get a better sense of what I'm doing here. So I thought I'd show you guys a few new things here, do something a little bit different from last time, just to show you guys what I'm doing here. So first of all, I just want to show you a little bit about the flight planning page here, the scenario setup page, if you will. So from the main menu, when you get into this here, it gives you a whole world map. You can pick the airports you want to fly from. You can even pick an airport you want to fly to. And pick gates, departures, all sorts of stuff like that. Now, some neat stuff that I want to show you guys that this does. And some of it is neat, some of it is a little awkward. Now, so a lot of this stuff is a bit awkward. The interface is a little bit clunky. It's too big. And like these flags for your departure and destination really get in the way of a lot of stuff here. But there is some neat stuff it does. So when you're setting your departure point, this is one thing that I really like that's new, that's really good. Zoom to details and look at this. It shows you the airport configuration, the runway, and it also shows you all the parking spots around the airport. So no more just guessing, well, which one's gate 3, which one's ramp 7 and ramp 8. Now you can actually look around and you can pick your departure point on the field, or your parking point on the field, from like a little mini map situation here. That I like. That I think is pretty smart. That's a kind of a neat feature. The wind's on there as well, just to give you some guidance as to which runway you're going to use for departure. As you zoom out, you can see, of course, the terrain and all the various airports and other things around. As with the previous version, you can automatically generate a flight plan. So you can pick your method. You can pick VFR direct, VOR to VOR, or do some IFR, and it'll try to pick a route that's appropriate for you. It's not a very good route picking, but it picks something. I'm going to try VOR to VOR just to show you here. So it's not a very long flight we're doing here, but it pops in a VOR there at Yorkton there, just to show you what it looks like. And you can always add and subtract these points, I believe, if you... yeah, you can remove it if you want, so you can find these items. You can turn things on and off. So nav aids, if you want to have all the nav aids and fixes on, you can turn that on. And then that makes things a little bit easier to find what you're doing. So you'll find nav aids in various places, I hope. Supposed to anyways. I don't know that it works that well yet. I've only just started toying with this, so I won't pretend that I know everything about it. But that zooming in and seeing where on the airport you're going to park, that's a neat feature. I kind of wish you could rubber band this line around. Like, I'm pretty sure you could do that in the previous version to snap onto various things. I think most of these white dots are airports, but it's not very good at defining these things very well here. It's got a legend, but it does not doing a very good job. Of defining all these things. So there we go. It does show some of them, and you can make custom points. I didn't know you could do that. See, learning things all the time here. This is all a new sim to me, so I'm learning things all the time about it. But so then it's got your flight plan here. Other things you can do, of course, you can adjust the time. You can adjust the aircraft. So here's the aircraft we've got, and this is how you address the call sign. So one nice thing you can also do is any airplane that you have in the simulator, you can assign a custom call sign to it, and it'll paint it on the tail. So the tail letters are dynamic. It'll change the letters on the tail to match whatever you've typed in here. You can also make it your ATC call sign. And then show tail number here, obviously. So that's kind of neat. You can also preset, of course, your weight and balance. 50% is right where I want to be. Aircraft selection, of course, you can pick the aircraft you want to fly from all the different ones, depending on what you've got, including other ones that you might end up importing. So there's already liveries being made for those of you that are interested in the airliners. There's already extra liveries being made for the 320. I've seen quite a few of them out there, and I think there's a few for the 47 as well. So people are already doing this 1-2 days in, and they're already doing this stuff, so that's great. The other thing, of course, is the flight conditions page here, which just shows you the flight conditions you're going to set up. So whether you have multiplayer on or off, this is basically your multiplayer server. So whether you join the server and whether you see other people who are playing flight sim around the world interactively, you can have traffic, live traffic, AI traffic only, or you can have all other artificial traffic off, and weather and time. So you can have live weather, or you can preset. Use a preset or use custom weather, so you can customize everything in the weather if you wanted to, and the time of day and everything. One thing that I did mention last time, and this is a gotcha right here, is if you have live players on here, then you can't adjust the weather and time. It's automatically, if you're playing live with other players, you have to have the live weather. So this will disable weather and time of day changing from your menus as well. So if those options are grayed out, this is the reason right here. Switch it to all players or group only, and then your live weather and time of day will work just fine. So there we go. And it is kind of neat because even on this world map there, when you do your time of day, if I can zoom over enough here, you can see that it's dark over here on this side of the globe, so it even shows you where day and night are. So night's coming slowly but surely towards the prairies here, so we're going to get this flight underway. Yeah, so I've got everything set up here, Tisdale to Melville Municipal, so we're going to hit fly. And the reason why I'm doing this particular flight in the TBM, I do want to show you guys what the TBM looks like. And I've sort of played with it a little bit. I'm not at all familiar with the TBM. It's a very new airplane to me, but I've played with it a little bit. I think I have a sense of what it's doing, but I wanted to show you some of the neat features. But one thing I did also want to demonstrate for you guys that is working now is that FSEconomy is actually working. It's a little bit of a clug to get it into the sim. You have to... There's one XML file. You have to go and put some extra things in there. So the instructions are all in the FSEconomy forum. So there's a complete set of instructions to follow. You have to install this. This is a specific client just for MSFS. So there's a new client. It's just slightly modified, but it's specifically for MSFS. You have to put in information, obviously your user ID, and you have to actually put your simulator as a remote computer. Even if it's local, you have to put remote and just put a local host on there, which is 127.0.0.1. Put some of that XML stuff in there and then run it, and it runs just fine. It's using the SimConnect DLL, and one of the things about this one is that it's not killing the SimConnect DLL like some of the other SimConnect applications are, like vPilot and what else? SimToolkit Pro and a bunch of the other ones are not killing the... This is not killing the frame rate too much here. If I run... Actually, I do have vPilot running here. It did recognize and connect to the simulator, and it's cut my frame rate back. You guys can see the frame rate in the corner now. Cut it back to about 30, 35. If I take away vPilot altogether, you'll see it boosts right up into the 40s in a second here. It should. It was boosting into the 40s earlier. Now, of course, it's not making a difference. There it goes. It took a couple seconds for the SDK to clear a little bit, but now it's into the 40s. So it's not unworkable, but it is kind of creating a bit of a drag on the frame rates here. Anywho, because some of you guys were interested in the frame rates last time and what kind of settings we had, so I thought I'd just leave the frame rate counter up there in the corner. It's not very easy to see because of the green, but there, I just started vPilot again, and yeah, it cut about 5 to 8 frames off of the frame rate. So we'll make do with it. And connect to VATSIM, and we'll just make do with it. So here we are, and yeah, so I'm just going to actually, before I do anything else, before I forget, we're going to start off my FSEconomy flight. So I do have a flight in progress here, and it does look like it's working. It's recognized the fact that we have the flight here. We fueled the airplane to about 50%, so we're just about ready to go. So we'll hit ready to fly. Here we are in the grass at Tisdale, and it's a beautiful beautiful evening here. Just a nice grassy airport out in the Canadian prairies. There's not a whole lot going on here, really. Looks like there is that a baseball diamond there? It almost looks like there might be a baseball diamond there. A couple baseball diamonds right nearby. Yeah, it's not a big airport by any means, but yeah. And nevertheless, we're doing an FSEconomy flight, so you don't get to pick the airports you're at. The airplane's parked at an airport. You got to take it where it needs to go. So I'm going to eliminate this ATC window because I really don't need it. Don't need the live weather either. But what is useful, and I just want to show off this airplane because it is a really nice, beautiful machine. I might get rid of this, and I have no idea how to get rid of this HUD. How do we get rid of this HUD here? Is there a way? There's got to be a way. Camera, external view. No. Can I do settings? No, that just turns on and off the bars. I don't know how to get rid of this HUD here. There's got to be a way to get rid of it, and I don't know what it is. And it's a shame because I would like to just take like a nice screenshot of just the airplane here without the HUD. So I think you might have to go back into settings. I don't know. I'm learning. Like, that's one thing that a lot of people have, I won't say bitched about, but have kind of... here it is. Instrument heads-up display on chase camera. Let's see if that does it. Apply and save, and let's get out of this. And there we go. Yeah, we got rid of all the extra instruments, and now we are just looking at just this beautiful airplane here. And it's a nice airplane. It's funny to see it parked in the grass there. I don't think most people will be too happy to get their TBM in the grass, but look, there is the call sign I put in right there on the aircraft. So whatever call sign you select as your ATC call sign, you can draw it on the airplane, and that's great. Loaf of Slice Bread says hello. Hey, how's it going? Welcome. Thanks for watching, and we're going to get this flight underway here. So a couple of nice things that I did realize as we were doing this here. So I basically took this TBM out for like the first time by myself yesterday just to try it out. And so I was complaining a little bit about the checklists. They're a little bit clunky. They really are, but it does some useful stuff. It does some useful stuff, and I'll show you some of the neat stuff. So when I was learning the airplane, I was totally unfamiliar with it. If you go to any of the checklists here, and you're saying, where is this particular item in the checklist, you'll notice as you run your... as you run yourself over each item, it tells you what you have to do, and it got a little icon here, a little eyeball icon. Click the eyeball icon, and it will highlight the item that you have to actually move to perform that action in the checklist. So if you're not sure where a particular switch is in an airplane that you're unfamiliar with, you can use this to find it. So I taught myself the TBM yesterday just by using these checklists, and now I've already got a little bit better sense. So you move the crash bar up, great. Source goes to battery. The generator goes to main, and then I'm going to go ahead and recenter myself and turn on my track IR, and we test the de-icing lights. I'm just going to remove the yoke here, test the landing gear lights, fuel on board check, so we should be about 50% on the tanks. We are 75 gallons aside, so that works for me. And that's it. That's the end of the before start checklist. So engine start checklist, motoring, if residual ITT greater than 150, we don't need. So ignition switch is up here, goes to auto, and aux boost pump, we flick it on. Propeller area clear. Hopefully that guy's going to go away. Starter on 2 seconds, then off. 1, 2. And then we set low idle when we're at 13% NG. So there's NG 13%. I really have not totally figured out how to do this thing properly here. Now, why are we not getting ITT rise? Huh. That is weird. I got it to go just fine yesterday. It's a very odd throttle quadrant. Huh. I was able to get it to start just fine yesterday. And I don't know why it doesn't want to start today. What is going on here? Eh. Lord. Throttle set low idle. ITT, max 870. No. Alright, we're going to abort the start. And I don't know why it didn't work. I really honestly don't know why it didn't work. Alright, yeah, oil pressure is down, yeah. We don't need those warnings.
Okay.
Alright, let's try one more time here. So again, ignition is on. Oh. Oh, the ignition was not on auto. No. The ignition is on auto. The aux boost pump is on. starter on for 2 seconds. 1, 2. Well, anyways. Was that enough to get the engine turning? Yes, so the engine's going to 10, 11, 12, 13. And it's stopping at 20% and it won't go any higher. And I have no idea how to make it go higher. What the heck? I got it to work yesterday just fine. Oh, for crying out loud. There's no fuel flowing. Why is there no fuel flowing? Weird, it worked just fine yesterday. Yep. Cut out the starter because I don't know why it's not working. Oh, that's useless. Trying to fly this airplane. I forgot to start yesterday. Just follow the checklist. We do have a fuel tank on, right? Yeah. So let's try it on the other tank for some reason. Ignition, auto. Set ignition to auto. Come on, you silly thing. Sometimes these Clickspots are also a little annoying here. Ignition, auto. Aux boost pumps on. Fuel selector's on manual. 1, 2. Alright, we're going to try this one more time and then I'm going to give up on this airplane. What am I forgetting here? Because it seems like we're not getting any fuel flow whatsoever. I don't get it. Fuel boost pump is on. I don't get it, but sometimes it does. The sim does not like to work. Okay, now I'm starting to get a little mad. I'm trying to do a stream here, and I can't get the stupid airplane to start. And this is part of the problem with this sim, is that there's no good explanations. There's no manuals for anything. Ignition's auto. Aux boost pump is on. Bleed is off. Stall no heat. Nah. Alright, I think we're just about ready to kill this again. Does the ignition need to be on? Maybe I should try the ignition in the on position. Alright, try it again. 1, 2. We're waiting for NG 13%. It just won't light for some reason. It's like there's no fuel in the tanks. Even if I rev it all the way up to full, which I would rather not do, but there's simply no fuel getting into the tank somehow. use the sim's auto start feature just because I want to see if the sim can start it, because I cannot seem to get this thing started and I don't know why. Well, I don't know what the sim did differently than what I did. But it seemed to get it started. And that's partly... Yeah, it should start. This is exactly how I started yesterday. I followed the checklist exactly like this, and it started just fine yesterday. So I'm going to write it off as a sim glitch for those of you that saw my last video when I fired up the Bonanza for the third time to do a landing approach. Even though the engines were running, the prop wouldn't turn. The props were not turning. None of the animation on the outside of the airplane was working. So there are still lots of glitches buried in this sim, unfortunately. Alright, so it looks like we got a good start now. She's stable, so we're going to follow the checklist again here. If I can just bring that back up again after engine start. So we've got the oil pressure is, so we got the low idle, flight idle, detent. Oil pressure is checked. Auto boost pump, aux boost pump is going now to auto. Everything's in the exact same position as how I had it, and I didn't like it. Fuel selector. Hard to see, but yeah, now fuel selector's in auto. Fuel select, shift, button, test. I really don't even know, honestly, what that does. This is not an airplane I know, so I am just sort of playing along here. Okay, on. Generator, main, and yep, and bleed auto or max diff, so we're going to get the bleed to auto. That's it before taxi. Inertial separator, we're going to get that open. We're also going to get the pitot heat and the stall heat on. That'll kill the last of our yellow lights there. Flight controls, we can check. Can't see our elevators, but we can see the ailerons. And I can't see the rudder, but you can do it by feel, and if everything feels good at least, it should be good. And then we're also supposed to feather the prop twice. Just to help cycle oil out of the hub, and then we're good to go. Alright, so let's get this show on the road here. Park and brake off. The inertial separator is open. That's fine. We're good with that. And one thing I did notice about this airplane when I was taxiing it around the other day is it does take a fair bit of power to get moving, and I would think it's going to be even worse on the grass here. So let's give her some power. Come on, baby. You can do it. There we go. Try not to hit the ramp guy, please. We'll just look away while he gets injured. Alright, the brakes work. Taxi through the grass back to the runway over there. I do love like the detail of the grass. Like you can see it doesn't go all that far, but up close it looks good, and then farther away it looks like it's also good there. Alright, trying to remember my skills here now. You'll notice it's a bit shuddering, and I think this has to do more with the fact that I'm running VPilot. The sim runs really good without it, and it's this stuttering. This is exactly what they're talking about, is being caused by VPilot. Don't go too low or it'll stop before we even reach it back to the pavement here. So I may shut off VPilot here. I wanted to fly a flight with... come on. Go. She needs a lot of power just to get going in the grass here. There we go. Yeah, I am not familiar at all with the TBM. I don't know much about the TBM. But actually, one thing I should do before we go anywhere as well, we're just going to set the parking brake here really quickly because I'm going to do one thing. At least, yes, thank you. What's the field elevation here? So I have this open in Sky Vector just on my other screen here, and I'm just going to set my altimeter the old-fashioned way. It's 1532, so I just dial my 1532, so around 2978, so we'll set the back up to the same thing. There we go. Just didn't want to do that while I was taxiing. Alright, so now we got an accurate altimeter setting. Let's get some speed bugs on this PFD here, so that we're ready for takeoff. We got 90, 100, 110, VRVX, VY, and VAP. There we go. Alright, now we're moving in the TBM, but you can see this stuttering effect. That's not the stream. That is the sim, and that's because of VPilot running. So you know what? As much as I hate to do it, it's just making the sim ugly. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect and shut down VPilot. And look at that. The second I shut her down, that's like butter again. I hope they figure out what's going on in this DLL here, because it's really, really a shame that we can't fly on the network yet. But FSEconomy does not seem to do anything with it. This is the thing. FSEconomy is running here in the background. It is detecting this flight. It's connected to the airplane. It's connected to the network, to the FSEconomy servers. Everything seems to be working fine, and it's not affecting the frame rate. So it's not completely SimConnect. There's something in SimConnect that certain things are using. All right. We should probably have had our taxi light on for taxiing. Get our nav light on since we're on the runway. We're going to get our strobe and our pulse lights on. Just going to backtrack this short little distance here to runway 14, and we're going to do our first FSEconomy flight here in Flight Sim 2020. So fortunately it's a fairly short leg, 30 minutes or so, and then we'll land and collect ourselves some money. I really want to make sure I get as much runway here as possible, because it's not a long runway here. It's 3,000 feet. The TBM, I believe, can do it, but it doesn't leave a lot to be desired here. So I'm just going to set the takeoff flap. There's that pulsing light there. I'm just going to swing it right around. I'm being a little bit violent with it. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have a good feeling with this airplane. I don't know this airplane. I don't have a good feeling with it. Alright, let's just do some checklists really quick here. Alright, so before lineup, parking brake on, landing light, nav lights, strobe lights, ignition, auto or on as required. I think auto is fine. Aux boost pump is at auto. Fuel selector is also at auto. And inertial separator is on. Trim set for takeoff. Maybe a little bit more nose up. There we go. That's the green mark. Transponder, and so in order to set navcom, we press this button down here, and then we can press the transponder button here, 1200, and enter, and it's already in reporting mode, and that's it. Transponder squawk, it's an alt cell, takeoff, and it just gives you an outline. Green, prop RPM to the green sector, then release the brakes, set 100% torque, pitch up 10 degrees at rotation speed, which is, I believe, 90 knots there. It'll come up on the airspeed tape now, and at above 150 we put the flaps up. Alright, get myself all buckled in here, landing lights on, and if I was on the Unicom I'd make some radio calls, but I'm not, so we're just gonna do it. Park brake off, holding the brakes, revving up the engine, waiting for that prop gauge right there to get into that green arc, pretty much right at 2,000 RPM. And ITT, yeah. And this happened last time too, the ITT. Very touchy there. Runway. 90 knots. We need. Get it now. 80. Here's 90. Pause the brake. Gear. Up. And that's it. We are airborne. I haven't even set up anything on my autopilot. VFR anyway, so we don't have to set anything on the autopilot if we don't want to, unless we want to turn it on. There's the ITT over temperature, so we'll just back the power off a little bit. I find this happens a fair bit. I don't know if it's the outside temperatures or what it is, but I find that it is really close to the limit on the temperature a lot, and it goes into the over temperature quite a bit. I don't know if that's realistic, I don't know if that's something the sim is doing, but we go. We're airborne. Yeah, we're airborne. Somebody sent me a little emoticon there. Alright, so we're above 115. Let's go flaps up. So we got gear up, we got flaps up. And away we go. See the magenta line there. We can probably start swinging towards it here. But I do like the way the sim looks overall. And this is the thing. I don't think it's perfect. I'm not going to claim it's perfect by any means. But like just looking out here now, like I feel like we're on the prairies. Like it's just an endless flat fields with little bits of trees in the middle, and you do see the individual trees there. And all the vegetation looks good. The roadways look good. There's so much variety out there because it's you know, satellite images that it really does look good. As far as how is FSEconomy in the sim, it works just fine. When you first fire up FSEconomy, you get one little error message in FSEconomy, and that's just because it's connected to the sim, but because there's no airplane type defined when it connects initially, it throws an error. However, the error is not anything important. It works. It works. I did a flight yesterday for FSEconomy. I made my money. It recognized the startup, the end, everything was good. So yeah. It seems to be working just fine. The installation process was a bit cumbersome. I found I had to do multiple steps to get it done. I got it done in the end, and it works. Once it's done, you know, it's a little bit cumbersome to install it initially, but once it's installed, it's great. It's fine. So I'm happy to get it up and running here. Let's just do a quick after takeoff checklist here. So landing gear up. Yep, lights are all out. Flaps up. And yep, flaps are up. Torque max 100%, and I can keep on creeping the torque forward a little bit now that we're a little bit cooler on the temperature. I may have just put it into the red there. DI system is required, and our separator is required. We can probably close the separator at this point. I don't think we're going to hit too many birds, pick up too much dust up here. And away we go, and I can just follow this magenta line all the way back to D. As soon as it's out, all the way back to where are we going? Little trains here and there, and that's one of them right there. When you're zooming, you use torquing slightly, press back a little bit. That also helps slow it down a little bit. You zoom in and out with the mouse key, which is great, until you're trying to use the mouse key to also rotate one of these things, and then if it slips off while you're rotating it, then instead it starts moving in and out, so that can be a little frustrating. Okay, I see the torque flash in there. We got it back on track. Down we go, and look at it now. Like, you know, as you get farther up, this is a sim that's good from far away. Yes, I got everything. I've got all the sliders set to full realism on this airplane. That would be interesting if you could get the cabin chat, if you could get the chat on one of the screens. That would be an interesting. That would be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind that. Yes, over torque slightly. We got 100 miles to go, so we'll go up to. What the hell, we'll go up to 13.5. Go to 13,500, so we can set the altitude selector here. See, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's lots of little annoying things it does. I'm not sure I like this mouse wheel zoom deal here. I might disable that. Because I find myself, I like to use the scroll wheel to turn knobs, and then I find myself accidentally zooming in and out without meaning to. Alright. Still don't have the autopilot on yet, but I guess we can get it on at some point here. Heading bug all set up. I would really not do this flight well. I did not set up properly before departure here. So anyways, we'll do heading mode, and we'll do flight level change mode, and then we'll go ahead and get the autopilot on. And yes, it's going to claim the yaw damper's not on first. So now I got the autopilot. Now I got the yaw damper. It's going to climb at 142 knots. Close enough. I like this 145 knots. It feels like a nice, comfortable climb speed. You're still making lots of ground. Still got quite the climb attitude going on here. And there we go. She is a nice looking machine. One of the neat things I have noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the exhaust plume from the engine is really kind of neat the way it makes everything kind of shimmer in the exhaust plume. That is a really neat effect. Again, pretty realistic there. That's exactly what happened. It's nice to see that effect. And just look around the sky, look around the airplane, and see what's around it. It really looks quite that level off, it's being aggressive, so This is, I think, what you get with, you know, default sim airplanes. The autopilot programming tends to be a little bit simplistic, you know, and I'm willing to live with that. As a VFR sim, I'm willing to live with this. You know, I'm not expecting excellence from the default airplanes. What I'm really looking for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and what I think they're doing, is they're creating a base, a platform on which we can all, you know, move into the next realm of flight simming here. So I think that's what they're doing, and for that, I think they're doing an excellent job. You know, it's not a perfect sim. From far away, like, the terrain looks absolutely spectacular. When you start to get closer to it, you see the pixelation of the, you know, the satellite imagery. You see the buildings are not terribly well textured, but from, you know, as you're cruising by in an airplane, my God, you're just looking out the window and it looks like you're flying through the real world. It really does. Like, it looks really good. I'm just gonna reset my suit. That's my default suit. And the question, am I using VR or Track IR? This is Track IR. VR does not yet work in the sim. It's been promised, but it's not available in the sim. It's not available until probably the first update comes out. That's when they're going to make it available. Alright, I'm just going to do something really quickly here while I'm thinking about it. On the MFD, no, on the PFD, we have to set our nav source. So we don't want nav 1, we want the FMS. So now it's going to try and fly that magenta line if I put it in nav mode. So now it's going to turn and intercept that line, and we can fly the beautiful direct to. But you can totally fly this VFR because the landmarks are there. You know, you get out your chart. Pardon me for a second here. I'm going to pull it out here. This is my sky vector chart right here. This is the flight we're doing, and you can fly these flights completely VFR looking at the charts. And if you look out there, you'll see, like, we're passing by this. We're right about this was, oh yeah, this is not quite the same route because it doesn't have the DOR in there. But what you'll see is you will see the lake we just passed over. Off to the left, you're gonna see this lake. It's kind of a weird shaped lake. It's got sort of a big peninsula sticking out from the bottom. Yeah, right there. This lake right here. You're just looking at that peninsula right there. That whole lake right there. If you look straight ahead, you'll probably see this long, lanky lake coming up. There's a small one that's probably this one here, right over there. So the long, lanky one should be more over on this side. If I can, oh, and we're pretty much right over it. Look, there it is. It's right down there. But you could do this. You could totally navigate VFR. The landmarks are all super realistic. Everything's there. You probably might be able to spot this airport as we go by. It's a pretty small little runway, but you'll probably be able to spot it. I turned up the volume a little bit on this sim this time on my stream, so I'm not trying to, like, override it. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm not trying to override the stream with the sound of the volume, but what I noticed on my previous video was that the airplane was really quiet, and you could barely even hear it really quietly, so I hope it's not overshadowing me too much, but I want to just sort of, I want you to be able to hear the sound of the airplane, because the airplane sounds really quite good. I want to be in the airplane with you guys. I don't want to take you with the flight and show you how this thing flies. So it's got us back on track more or less here. And what do we got? We got 81 miles to our next waypoint, which is pretty much, about 15 miles away from our destination. So there's a VOR, and we're going to a small airport next to the main airport in Yorkton. It's funny because I keep looking at these, and because of the sun coming in over through the window there, it looks like they're glowing. Alright, so we did get it started in the end. A little help from the sim. I don't know why I didn't start, but anyways. It is it's a thing of beauty. The airplane's a bit crude. There's more functionality normally to these screens than is simulated here. It really just does the most basic stuff, but it does enough. Like, you've got access to a timer, so you can restart the timer. You can set the bearings on your PFD. Speed bugs, as I said, I had those in there so I could see what I was doing. I can set minimums for my approach, so it'll call out my minimums. I've got them off right now, and I'm okay with that because it's VFR anyways. PFD settings, so you can turn the wind on. Actually, I like that option 3, so now you've got a wind displayed on your PFD. So there is some stuff here. You can change your comm channel spacing. So it's not bad, but it's not as good as I would like it. You know, it could be. But again, it's a default airplane. If I had paid extra money for this airplane, you know, as an add-on airplane, I would want to do more than it's doing. It does the basics, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems like there are still glitches in it that need to be dealt with. So hopefully we'll deal with it. But it does work on its basic level. I don't know that I can really do too much with the flight planning here. If I go to MFD and I go to flight plan, I can add a route waypoint. Active flight plan. I'm just going to put in YQR. It's going to be a terrible waypoint to add, but just for the sake of there we are. So we're there it is. Tisdale to YQV, and then okay. So I can add an en route waypoint here. YQR. It's not really en route, but just nope. No, I didn't want to add. Oh, but it did add it. It did add that waypoint successfully. Eventually. Remove waypoint. So you can do stuff on the flight plan in here. It's not. It's a little bit cumbersome. It's a little bit clunky, but I guess it's a simulation of the real touchscreen too, so. Yeah, it's not a terrible airplane, I imagine it. You know, again, it's a default airplane. I don't expect like miracles or anything, but I expect some effort to be put into it. So when things don't work like that, it kind of surprised me a little bit. I started the airplane just fine doing that exact same procedure yesterday, so I'm not sure what it was because everything seems to be on and working. The fuel tank selector is switching itself automatically, keeping the tanks pretty balanced here. I'll look at perhaps changing it down. There's GPH gallons per hour, 56 gallons per hour as fuel's being used. We're really going at like high-speed cruise here. We're just trying to keep this plane going because I don't want this to turn into a long flight. We just want to get it done. As far as the eye can see, farm fields, we got lakes everywhere, both sides. Yeah, we got some big lakes over there. Actually, that's probably the lake we're looking at. I can get this good thing done. Yeah, so there's 2 lakes over there. There's 1 lake. That lake, isn't it? It's got a weird shape to it. Yeah, so the big lakes are even further out that way. There, somewhere over there. Can't really see them for the haze today, that's okay. And you win the prize. We are in Saskatchewan. It is extremely flat. Unfortunately, it's not a very exciting scenery to look at, but this just happened to be the flight that I was set up to do, so I didn't pick the most exciting scenery in the world. I'm sorry. But more, I just wanted to show off this airplane, which it is a nice looking airplane. It really does look good through the sky. The clouds look a little bit simplistic. It's volumetric clouds, so I mean they do look kind of nice, but there's room for improvement in this end too. So I can't wait to see what other people do with this too. You know, Active Sky can probably do some really nice things with this end. You know, and of course, waiting for a good payware airplane is probably the biggest thing I'm waiting for. There's a few payware airports available already. As you guys don't know, Flight being released in Denver, Orbeck was released, I think, 3 different airports, City and 4 different airports, I think. Released Bradford, and there's one, I think, things they're released. So there are a few airports already have guys in place. Airports. There's a few payware airports out there already. However, given that, you know, right now I'm just VFRing it around, I'm not inclined to go pick up any of the payware airports yet. What I'm really waiting for is a good airplane. So that's the first thing I'm waiting for. I'm enjoying these basic airplanes, and they'll sort of do for now, and I'll have some fun doing FSEconomy Flight. But when it comes to doing my pilot flight stream, I'm going to definitely come back to T3 for the time being. Much as I'm going to miss the scenery, you know, T3, the pilot flight stream is very much good for professional career, and these airplanes Airbus out for a bit of a spin for the next one, just to see how it works. Yeah, I played with it a little bit. I'm not super impressed. It looks good, but it looks like it is very simplistic. And that's the thing. Like a lot of the switches and things don't necessarily do anything in the sim. It looks like this airplane. This is a relatively simple airplane, so it looks like it's been modeled in fairly high detail. It looks like almost all the switches are functional to some degree, anyways. You can move them back and forth whether they do anything. Really is a whole other question. The Airbus I did play with it a little bit, and there's a lot of switches that are just not active, that just don't do anything. That, again, I'm not expecting the world. I'm really not expecting the world from the default airliners. I'll be happy if they get from point A to point B, and you can start them with a realistic start process. But yeah, gonna do your first mission on FSEconomy, I hope. I think that's what she said. Or no, you said on air you're doing. I played with on air for a little bit. I liked it, but when I tried it, it was when it was first kind of coming out of the beta, and it was not complete enough to really make it useful. That was my problem with it at the time. Was it didn't have, you couldn't assign missions to a pilot. You couldn't assign like a set of missions to a pilot. They had one mission they could do at a time, and that was all they could do on air. And you had to wait and sit around, and the minute they landed, then you could assign them their next thing. But you had to be like around your computer or whatever point in the day they landed at. There was no queuing up additional missions or tasks for them, and that made it very cumbersome to try and do anything, because you had to try and be near the computer whatever time they would get to their destination, or else if you wait 3 or 4 hours, you're busy doing whatever life. And then by the time you got back to the sim, they'd run out of duty day. So it was almost impossible to do anything with them before on air. Now I know they fixed that. I just haven't really given it much of a chance since then. Frankly, I've been enjoying a pilot's life so much that I don't have the time for on air. I'd be willing to consider it again now with this simulator, but I think for the time being, I'm going to stick with FSEconomy and make some money in FSEconomy for a little bit here. Alright, we're just about ready to start down. We're 30 miles, 40, 50 miles, yeah. We get about 10 to 15 miles away from the VOR, we'll start down. So for those of you that don't know, if anybody's unfamiliar with what FSEconomy is, and I think if you're watching the stream, you probably know. If you're watching the stream in the video, you probably know. But FSEconomy is a simulated economy for the flight simulation world. So it gives you a reason, purpose to fly around in the flight simulator. What it does basically is it generates people and cargo at all the airports throughout the world, and literally every airport that's in any of the sims is in their database. So whatever airport you want to start from, you can look for cargo or people that want to go anywhere from that point and try to fly them to their destination. And there are also airplanes within the simulation that you have to either buy or rent. So you rent the airplane, and you rent the airplane or buy the airplane, and you have to buy fuel as well to put in the airplane. And once you've rented the airplane and you have the cargo, then you load it up in your simulator, you fly the mission, you get to the destination, you get paid for the mission. But it's all website based. The only thing you need to download is an interface program for your simulator that will track your simulator here and send information about your simulator back to the database to make sure that you are actually flying where you say you are. So it's going to track where you start from when you start the engine. When you finish, you then mark that you've completed or check that you shut down the engine at an airport, and it'll complete the flight. And then if the passengers are at the destination, they'll get offloaded. Otherwise, you'll have to do another flight, start another flight to get them close to the destination if you have to make a fuel stop or something, or maybe stop to pick up more cargo. So it's a really neat concept. It's been going for a very long time now. It's a very big world, a very big economy, tons and tons of airplanes in it that you can rent. If you save up enough money, you can actually buy an airplane of your own, and then you don't have to pay the rental fees every time you use it. So air hauler's another good one too. I also played with air hauler, and it was another good simulation. The thing I like about these simulations is they do serve a very good purpose in that they force you to go to airports you wouldn't otherwise go to. That was Tisdale, Saskatchewan. We took off from there. I would never in my life have dreamed of going to Tisdale, Saskatchewan if I didn't have an FSEconomy mission that started there. So I got to see what that little airport looked like, and that's the great thing about FSEconomy, air hauler, on air is they force you to go to all these little airports that you've never been to before, and just see what they look like either in the sim or, you know, just try them and see what the scenery looks like on there. Try different missions, try to get the missions done. So I think we're probably close enough here. We're going to go ahead and start down. Actually, so what we'll do is we'll set to 4,000. 4,500 for now. Let's put 8. So that does that. And so we're in the S mode. So down about 1,500 feet per minute. And then we'll have to bring the thrust lever back here in a minute as we accelerate. I could also show you what the ATC looks like here to Winnipeg Center. So it'll automatically offer you the frequencies, so you don't have to know frequencies, and you can just click on
Winnipeg Center, Day or Charlie. Papa Alpha Lima Tango is type Day or TBM913 miles west of Charlie Juliet Romeo 7. Request flight following.
And you'll see it has a dialogue here. So
Day or Charlie, Papa Alpha Lima Tango, Winnipeg Center. Squawk 6027.
And then I can either do it manually. Let's do it manually just for the fun of it, but I could also just acknowledge the squawk code.
Alpha Lima Tango radar contact 13 miles southwest of Charlie Juliet Romeo 7, 12,200 feet. Altimeter 29.76.
29.76, and this is one of the good things of getting the ATC is that you get little altimeter settings. So there's 2976 set, and then acknowledge radar contact. If you don't acknowledge,
Day or Alpha Lima Tango.
He'll get mad. He'll ask you again if you've heard of it about 30 seconds to a minute. It's not a terrible system. I don't really like it. I'd much rather have VATSIM ATC. But one thing I do find a little awkward is that it's hard to find out what the local altimeter setting is, because on here it's only in millibars. And it's like, in North America nobody uses millibars. Nobody even knows, you know, a lot of these things don't even have a setting in millibars. So that's something that I don't think there's an option for that. Let me just check, but I don't think there's an option for that. Flight model, miscellaneous, accessibility. No, actually, I don't see anything where you can change, and that should be something. That's huge. And I don't understand how it's so overlooked. That I guess maybe because I believe they're based in France, so they, you know, they're dealing with, you know, a European system where they're always using millibars, but in other parts of the world, like, we don't have millibars on the aircraft. I couldn't set, you know, I couldn't set 10,001 millibars if I wanted to, because I have no idea what it equates to unless I actually have a chart. I guess that's why on a bunch of the forums now people are getting these charts, charts now for, you know, the millibar to altimeter setting conversion. That's the one thing I kind of like with the ATC, is at least I can get a little altimeter setting now. Alright, so we're going down, so let's go ahead and pull out our checklist again and just make sure there is a climb and a cruise checklist. There's not too much on it, really. It's just check and make sure you're happy with everything. Since we're down through 10,000, we'll get the separator open, just in case we hit any birds or FOD. Altimeter settings checked. We did that. Autopilot, yeah, we've got it set the way I like. Fuel gauges, let's check and see how it's going here. 63.59, I think I might just do a manual switch to the left tank, and of course that turned the engine off, even though it said left tank, and I was like, okay, before it gets too far, let's just see if we can get the starter going here. Let's see if it'll start this time for me. Yep, this time it'll start, because there goes the ITT right there. It's going up. I should probably have it at idle until it's started.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
Because I got the throttle at idle for a second here. Alright. There we go. Master caution, it's just the inertial separator. I've done that like 3 times now where I've gone to switch the tank, and it slips for a second, and then it goes to the turn it off setting. There's a few things about this interface, and that's one that frustrates me in this airplane, is that I find that it it slips around a little bit too much. I don't know if there's any way I can do it. Oh, maybe if I use, I can use the mouse wheel. Okay, let's do that from now on. We'll use the mouse. Because that's like the third time I've shut that off by mistake. Just doing this. Alright, so we're right in the vicinity of Yorkton. We're at 7,000 feet overhead the field, so we're not going to worry too much about it. DA system, inertial separator, landing lights. Before descent, altimeter, fuel gauge system, inertial separator. And then approach check, which we can probably do now. Altimeters again, we've checked it. Fuel gauge is checked. DA system is required. Inertial separator on. Landing lights on. Below 10,000. I never really turned them off. We went to 13,000. Seemed okay to leave them on. Alright, so now we are just in the turn towards our actual destination here of Melville, I believe it's called. Pull up my sky vector here and get a little bit of information out of it. Melville Municipal elevation is 1,800, so the circuit's going to be at about 28. We're going to want to level off at about 33. We'll level off at 35. Let's do that. We'll level off at 35, and we'll just have a quick little look-see as we're flying over it. Now, why are we turning so far? Is it just because we're a little bit off course? What's the deal here? Where are we going? I don't know where it's trying to go. So, you know what? The heck with it. There. Alright, the autopilot's off, and now I am flying this bird because I cannot seem to figure out why it was not turning accurately there. Alright, so there is the airport. Should be down to our south somewhere, so I'm just going to reset my view. Now, I don't know why I pitched up that high. I was trying to reduce my descent rate a little bit, and I ended up climbing a little bit. But I also do need to start slowing down because we are getting close to our destination here. Well, we're 20 miles away, actually. We can probably keep the speed up for a while longer, I guess. Alright. Back to hand flying. It's not a terrible airplane to hand fly. I found she's a little squirrely there on the runway with the rudder. I may have to adjust the rudder sensitivity again on this. I find she's a little squirrely there, but we'll just keep a nice gentle descent going. I see the flight director's telling me to do things here, and I'm just going to probably ignore them for the most part. Alright, so somewhere out here is Melville Municipal Airport, where we're going to land. The fun thing about this sim too is because like the terrain is relatively realistic, it's a bit challenging sometimes to find your destination. It all sort of blends in together. Let's just keep the plane going down here. Not crazy down, just a little bit down, please. It's just a little bit sensitive on this plane here. Alright, so somewhere up toward 12 o'clock, maybe just left, it might be that right there is the airport, but you really don't see it, or it might be that there. You really have to get close enough to see it. Like, it's fairly realistic trying to spot these airports. And that's one thing that I do like about this sim a lot, is the texturing, the tones are all very similar, and nothing stands out. That's one thing you kind of notice a lot in P3D. Certain things might stand out because with just an unrealistic color scheme, and everything in this is a very good color scheme, where it's all the tones kind of match because they're all satellite images, and as a result, nothing stands out. You know, you don't see an airport from miles away. It doesn't stand out like a sore thumb because it's the only thing that's bright gray. You know, there's also little roads and everything here and there, and there's grass and trees that hide things as well. So it's a little bit tough to spot things. I think we're a little bit off course here, so we need to go closer to due south here. Alright, so somewhere down here, it might be that gray kind of spot up there. And the only other trouble is I don't know the winds. Alright, so let's cancel flight following.
Winnipeg Center, Dayor Alpha Lima Tango, cancel flight following. Dayor Alpha Lima Tango, Winnipeg Center, cancellation received. Squawk 1200. Frequency change approved.
Alright. Melville Municipal. Select a runway for landing, but then it doesn't give you any hint as to the winds. Oh, and I started going down without meaning to, just because I wasn't paying attention, so maybe I can check the winds here. I can't really. This is one thing that bugs me, is it's kind of hard to see what the winds are doing at the surface, so the other thing you can try and do is fly over the windsock. Trying to keep it at 3,500. It might be that right there. I feel like that's it right there. But this is a bit of a challenge. You know, even with a moving map here, I've got a moving map display, and I still am having trouble trimming this airplane, but I'm also having trouble spotting the airport itself. You're gonna literally trip over the airport before you realize where it is. You'll be like, oh, it's right there, or is it that right there? So you just don't know until you're almost there and close enough to see a runway. Or is it that right there? That's the airport right there. So we're gonna fly just a little bit offset and see if we can spot a windsock so we can better determine a landing runway. If I remember correctly, the winds were out of the south. Fly overhead the field, see if we can spot a runway for use here. Yeah, that's it. See, there's the diagram. That's the airport right there. But we got pretty close to it without seeing it. We had to be almost on top of it to see it. Alright, probably slow this puppy up a bit more again here. There's an airport beacon there. Alright, so the winds are supposed to be out of the south. Can you see a windsock anywhere down there? Just take a glance, make sure we're not going down too fast. I do not see a windsock anywhere, frankly. So what we'll do is we will set up for, the winds are supposed to be out of the south, we'll just set up for the runway. I think it's 13. Be a little bit steep, but this thing is still going really fast. We need to slow down a little bit here. And we'll just quickly get up the ATC. It is runway 11 is what we're going for.
Charlie Juliet Victor Niner, traffic day or Charlie, Papa Alpha Lima Tango,
Wow,
1 mile south,
find this airplane
3,200 feet inbound to land,
It's
runway
very
11.
squirrely in pitch here. Keep on trying to trim it, and I just... Okay, so we're going to land on this runway 11. So we're just crossing into a downwind here at 2,800 feet. That's where we should be. I go out a little bit far in this airplane because she's a bit fast, so I get a little worried about how... Alright, as we turn to the downwind, I'm going to get the first notch of flaps there. Ooh, don't balloon up too far. There's okay, so now we're set up on a bit of a wide downwind, probably about like a 2 to 3 mile downwind, but frankly I don't want to crowd the field in this airplane. She's a fast airplane, and I need to make sure that we're slowed up because it's a short runway too. Alright, but we should be at 2,800 feet in the downwind. Alright. And that's probably good for a base turn there. Okay, so now we should be losing altitude, not gaining altitude here. Alright, I think what we'll do at this point, just so we're nice and stable, is we will throw the gear down. That will definitely increase our descent rate there. It's going to be a bit of a long final. I probably went out way further than I should have, but again, it's a short runway, so I want to make sure that I have plenty of room to be stable on this approach. I want to hit the numbers pretty much because it's not a huge runway. I think it's just over 3,000 feet as well. It's doable. checklist ready here. Short final, landing gear. It's too distracting. Landing gear, flaps, and autopilot yaw damper. Okay, so we're on final there. I'm going to get the full flaps. Wow, that full flaps just brought it right back to the approach speed, didn't it? There's 85 knots right there. It's looking pretty good. Alright, we're going to get the yaw damper off as well. So we got the gear is down 3 green, the flaps are at the landing position, the autopilot and yaw damper are both off. We are ready to land. Would help if I align with this runway here. Getting a little slow. 85, come on, 85 is the target. Fortunately, the brakes on this worked quite well. I had to stomp on them pretty hard there, but it did work. And I believe there was somewhere to park up at this end, I believe. I think. I have no idea. I was here the other day and I've already forgotten where to park. That runway or that runway. So yeah, I think I tacked it down there. Alright, let's get some power in there. Checklist. Runway clear. So we'll wait till we're backtracked and then we'll do that runway clear checklist. But there we go. Successful flight in the TBM. It's not great. It's better, I think, than the FSX defaults were. But she feels very squirrely, especially the rudder feels very squirrely. Maybe it's overly sensitive, maybe I need to turn the sensitivity down. But she feels very squirrely. All the controls feel a little bit squirrely in this airplane. But it is nice to be able to do something useful in the sim. So FSEconomy missions are possible in the sim now, so that's good. It feels good to know that you're doing something useful. I mean, it's really just nice to enjoy the scenery, but why not enjoy the scenery and have a mission and just look at this? Like, this is what I love about the sim, is look at the number of trees around this airport. And they're not great. If you get really close to them, you know, you start to see the individual pixelation and everything. But from a distance, you know, from a little ways away, you know, as you're flying by, it looks good, and it fills the landscape. There's so many objects, so much stuff out there. Alright, yeah, here we go. Here's the place to park, I guess, because it's the only place there is here. There's not really too many places to park, so we're just going to pull off the taxiway and park in the grass near the runway, because there's nowhere else to park. But even just to look at this default kind of gas station building over here and compare, remember what was like in P3D. I didn't mean to stop here. Keep going, keep going. I just want to swing around and face the taxiway. Remember what the default buildings in P3D look like. I mean, it's not great when you get close to it, but it's not terrible. It's got more detail than P3D ever had. Alright, so we didn't do anything clear of the runway. Set the parking brake, and there you go. If you guys can see that there, sending results. Your flight is logged. Results we found on the website. Your aircraft is no longer rented. Phone and you need to re-rent the aircraft. So that's it. FSEconomy Flight is successfully done. Let's just do some stuff here. Let's turn off some lights. There's nobody else here anyways to care what we do. Leave the nav on. Turn off the strobes. And let's reset the pitch trim, and then we're going to just hit up the checklist here. So clear the runway taxi lights on, navigation light off, strobe lights off, DI system. Yeah, we don't need any more. That's true. And trims, reset takeoff, flaps up, shutdown checklist, parking brake is set, exterior lights off, interior lights is required, fuel selector to manual. Autopilot trims off, bleeds off. Throttle, flight idle for 2 minutes. Yeah, it's been I think about 2 minutes. And then a low idle for 15 seconds. And you can start a timer on here if you wanted to. It's on the PFD. Timer. Start. And then cut off. That's it. Let it come to a stop. We gotta turn on close the inertial separator. And aux boost pump can go off. Generator off, and source, if we don't need anything, off. Crash lever down. And that's it. We're done. We managed to do it. We managed to get the plane successfully from one little tiny airport in Saskatchewan to another. A little bit of trouble starting the airplane, but otherwise is good. So there we go, guys. We did it. We did a flight, the TBM. It's not the best airplane in the world, but it's not bad. It's fun to fly. It's got a good performance on it. It can get in and out of a very small field here, but it can also go pretty darn fast, especially for such a small turboprop. So you can cover the distance pretty good. We covered that 150 miles in basically about 30 minutes, I think, there. So we did really good there. So there it is. So now it's available for rent, but our flight is no longer active. Everything's been sent off to the server, and we have logged some time and made some money in FSEconomy. And that's basically it, guys. So that's it for this stream today. For my next stream, I think we'll probably try to do have a little bit of fun with maybe the Airbus. I've gotten quite familiar with the Airbus, so I'd like to see how this compares to the Aerosoft Airbus. And otherwise, that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay safe, and we will see you all real soon.